Today I'm excited to have Sarah Fox on the show, the founder and CEO of Riptie Hair. Inspired by her experience battling tangled hair while scuba diving in Guam, Sarah launched her company in 2022. With a background in sales and marketing, she turned a personal problem into a successful business that allows her to balance entrepreneurship with family life. Based in San Diego, Sarah is passionate about connecting with fellow women entrepreneurs and overcoming the challenges of business ownership. Let's explore her inspiring journey and uncover the story behind her entrepreneurial success. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for connecting with me today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm really looking forward to learning about your journey.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you about it.
So, could you share a bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Sarah Fox, and I'm the founder of Riptie Hair. We make innovative, patent pending hair ties that keep long hair from tangling in the wind and water. I was working at a scuba shop about 5 years ago. And I was in the ocean 3 to 4 times a week, and I was having a really big problem with my hair. Every day it would be so knotted and gross, especially like right around the base of my neck. I would get these snarls. I would sometimes have to cut them out. I'd be in the shower with a bottle of conditioner and like a wet brush for hours just brushing out my hair. And I wondered if there was a way to prevent tangles while scuba diving. So I started playing around with some elastics, and I came up with a design that is basically what the rip tie is today. And what the rip tie looks like is it is a long elastic braided thread with two loops on each end. And I made some for myself, and it worked in the water, so I started making them for my friends. And that is how I came up with the idea for rip tie.
It's really cool that you became an entrepreneur to solve a problem that you faced yourself. But why entrepreneurship?
Well, I have always really enjoyed solving problems. When I was in first grade, I won the Illinois State Invention Convention, where I think it was kindergarten through third graders would come up with inventions. And I made something called neat sheets, which had Velcro on them, and they were an easier way to make your bed. So I've always kind of enjoyed thinking up ways to solve problems. The Riptie is my first company where I did that, but I've had some ideas before, and then I've seen other people be successful with similar ideas. And so when I had this idea for the Riptie, I didn't want the opportunity to pass me by.
So, how do you see failure in business? What do you do to bounce back?
Oh, I think being an entrepreneur means that you fail so many times, and the most important thing is to keep going. So, for example, the first time that so I have a manufacturer that makes the hair ties, and the first time I placed an order, I ordered 300 hair ties, and when they arrived, they just weren't what I expected. They weren't something that I could sell. And it was really disappointing because I'd spent money buying those hair ties, and I thought that I had, I thought that I was going to be able to start selling hair tie, like selling more of them because I was originally making them myself. So that was, I think, the first failure that I met with Riptie, and I was so upset. And I remember just going to bed that night so angry and thinking that I would never be successful. And the next morning I woke up and I just was like, I'll just try again. So I sent an email to the manufacturer. I explained what the problems were. I took videos where I showed them what I wanted, and I ordered 300 more. And the next 300 were perfect. And that's what that was my first stock that I really started to sell.
So, how did you identify your target audience for Riptide Hair, and what marketing strategies have been most effective in reaching them?
I think I was pretty lucky in identifying because I was really the first target. I was the one who needed the problem solved. So when I first started marketing the hair ties, I marketed almost exclusively to people like me, people that were interested in scuba diving, people that were interested in surfing, and people that were interested in ocean sports and spent a lot of time in the saltwater, especially people who lived on the coast or who took vacations often to saltwater destinations. which was me. So I live in California now, and I went surfing on my honeymoon. So I take a lot of surfing trips, and that was my first audience. And then when I started running ads to them, those ads were successful. And you'd asked what channels that we use. We primarily market on Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, and then also Google. And then we have just started TikTok ads as well. So we also, in addition to our actual advertising, we have social media profiles on all of those sites where we get organic traffic from. So when I had started marketing first to scuba divers and surfers, I started getting emails from other women who were using the hair ties for other sports. Some of the first ones I got were a lot of motorcycle riders. I don't ride motorcycles, so I didn't even know that was a problem that motorcycle riders had. But apparently it's a big problem for them too, the hair tangling. So that was the next market that I started to the next people that I started to market to. And every time I would get emails, then I started getting a lot of emails about horseback riding. So I started marketing to equestrians. And every time I get a lot of emails about what people are using the hair ties for, then I'll seek out new markets that way.
It's great how you used your customers' response to change it for the market fit. So how are other ways you gather and utilize customer feedback to shape your marketing strategies and product offerings?
Well, there's a couple of ways that we get feedback from customers. First, we get a lot of emails, as I mentioned, and I love getting emails from customers, whether they're good or bad. I love getting customer feedback. It's so helpful. And when we've used customer feedback to adjust the size of the loops with the hair ties, we've offered additional lengths, additional thicknesses, just based on customer feedback and what people are asking for. Oh, colors as well. That's another place where we get if we get a lot of requests for a certain color combination, then we'll make it. So we get emails. We also get comments on our ads when we run ads on Facebook and Instagram. We get reviews, so our customers come back and submit reviews on our website. And then I also, early on, I formed a customer advisory board where I looked at a couple of customers that had ordered multiple times, and I invited them to talk with me and tell me about how they found the hair tie, where they found, what social media they used, where they found new products that they were interested in, stores they might be interested, or the types of stores that they thought might be interested in carrying rip ties. So the customer advisory board was also really helpful early on to sort of shape where my customer might be.
What do you believe are the most important principles of effective marketing that aspiring entrepreneurs should understand?
I think something that really helped me was identifying who my customer was. And in a way, it was easy for me because it was me. But my customer is also more than just me. And so it can be difficult, I think, as a founder to understand the use of your product beyond what you see it for. So I was surprised to find people using the hair ties for motorcycle riding, horseback riding, biking, skiing. Those were things that surprised me. So I think identifying who your audience is. So my customer was not just somebody who loves the ocean, who lives, within 20 miles of the ocean, who vacations often to tropical destinations. My customer is also women and some men, but primarily women. Although, as I mentioned, we do have some male customers as well, who are athletic and active, who ski, who own a motorcycle, who go dirt biking. So just to understand who your customer really is, and by talking to customers, I think is the best way to do that.
How do you accept customer feedback, the good and the bad? I mean, sometimes it's kind of hard to keep that self-confidence when someone's criticizing your product. So how do you deal with that?
Oh, that is so true. It is very hard to hear the negatives from customers. And sometimes it can even make you a little bit upset because they're not always really nice when they email you or they leave mean comments on your ads. But I think for me, um, I hired a customer service associate, someone who is not so intimately attached to the product, and I let her respond professionally, and she filters it back to me, so she gives me overall feedback, so I don't have to read the mean messages from people. She can tell me what the content is, and she's not emotionally attached to the product, so it's not hard for her to read these mean emails. I mean, it is a little bit hard for anybody to get mean emails, but she's just not quite as emotionally attached as I am, and I think that was really helpful.
So, how important is networking in building a community for your success, and how did you make those connections when you were starting?
Oh, well, I was really lucky. I was a student at SDSU when I started the company, and SCSU is San Diego State University, and they have an on-campus incubator. So an incubator is a program that helps startup companies start, I guess is the best way to put it. And that was really instrumental for me in making those early connections. So I think networking, it can be really hard, especially if you've never done it before. It feels a little awkward to go up to people, but most people who are further along in business than you are really happy to help. And they're grateful for the people who helped them when they started business. And once you understand that, it makes it a little bit easier to start networking. So being in the incubator was really helpful. I met a lot of people in San Diego who had more experience than me with things like marketing or order fulfillment or manufacturing, and they can just give me a little bit of advice and make sure that I'm on the right path with whatever I'm pursuing with my company.
How important would you say these connections are for where you are today?
I would say they're very important. For example, when I first started the company, I was fulfilling the hair ties so that when somebody would place an order, I would take the hair tie, I would put it in an envelope, and I would mail it myself. And that is great when you're first starting, but when you start to have 80, 100, 150, 200 orders a day, that becomes too much to keep up with. So I think when we hit about 80 to 100 orders a day, we decided we really needed to move to something called a 3PL. That's a third-party logistics. And what that is a warehouse. So basically, our product is in a warehouse in Carlsbad, California, and that warehouse works with hundreds of other companies. When the order comes in from our website, it transmits to the warehouse, and at the warehouse, where they have full-time staff who are picking, meaning they will take the hair ties from the shelf and put them into the hair tie, and that's what they do all day long. And not just the hair ties, whatever other products are being ordered from their customers. So I found my third-party logistics provider through connections that I had from SDSU.
Wow. So, during your time as an entrepreneur, how have you changed, and what are some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned along the way?
Oh, well, my life has changed a lot because I both got married and had my first child while I've been founding the Riptie company. And I think it's really important to make sure that when you're an entrepreneur, it can be easy to get lost in your work and to spend all your time working. And I think it's really important to also take time for family. Make sure that your relationships are strong and that you are present with your family. The nice thing about being an entrepreneur is when you own your own company, you work a lot, but you do have a little bit more flexibility when you work. So that is something that I've really enjoyed while having my first baby.
How did you learn to manage your time that way?
That's a great question. For me, it's really important that I separate work and home. So right now I work it's hard for me I think some people can work from home, but I'm just not one of those people. So I found a great daycare that has a co-working space with it. So every morning at 8:30, I get my son, his name is Jordy. The two of us get in the car and we drive over to Liberty Station, which is where the co-working space is. And he goes into the daycare and then I'm in the office, which is right next door. And then at noon, we have a break and I go and I have lunch with him and then I come back and work. So having that separation, like designated work time. So I work before lunch and then after lunch. And then, I definitely work sometimes at home and on the weekends. I think any entrepreneur works a little bit more than that, but it is great to have that, a separation and a place where you specifically work, as opposed to just home where there's always so many distractions and things that can get in your way of getting work done.
That's great. So, what do you like most about entrepreneurship today? Is it still what initially motivated you to start your company?
Well, I do like to work for myself. It is really exciting when everything that you do impacts your company. So sometimes if you're working in a job, you can feel a little bit like a cog in a machine. And if you work really hard or you don't work really hard, there's not a whole lot of difference. But when you own the company, you can directly see how your work affects how the company is doing. And I think that's really exciting and I think that's really motivating.
I definitely see how it can be exciting, but when your work affects your own company, your decisions have a bigger weight as well, and making those decisions can be tough even when you're not an entrepreneur. So how do you manage that?
It's really hard because you feel the weight of all of your decisions. Maybe I'm still working on that a little bit. I think I try to do the research when I have a question that I face. For example, should I move to a 3PL? Should I move to a warehouse, or should I keep fulfilling out of my house, or get an office and hire somebody to do the fulfillment? So I think that was one decision that I had to make last year, and I think weighing the pros and cons, sitting down, thinking about like how much will it cost to do it this way, how much will it cost to do it the other way, and how much would it cost to do this third way, and really looking at it objectively and then making a decision and not second guessing yourself. Just moving forward with that decision is really important instead of waffling.
That's true, but it's easier said than done, right?
Yes, definitely.
So how did you stop second guessing yourself and just move forward with it? I mean, I know myself, I would have probably postponed the decision as long as I could.
Well, with that particular decision, with the moving to the third-party logistics, we did it 2 weeks before my son was born. And so the decision had to be made because the baby was coming. And I wasn't going to be able to do it out of my house anymore. So it kind of forced the decision. But we've never looked back and we have not second guessed that as a decision. We just moved forward. And then I guess, it worked out really well.
So how did you go about building your team, and what is your company's culture like?
Well, we have a pretty small team. We have 3 full-time employees. Me, I am the founder, CEO. Then I have Satari Sterling. She's the director of operations. I met her through SDSU. And she does all of our logistics. So that would mean working with our manufacturer, putting our orders in with our manufacturer, making sure the product gets to the warehouse, making sure the product gets to the customer. That's mostly what she does. And then we have a customer service associate whose name is Zia, and she handles all of our customer inquiries, emails, reviews, things like that. And also both Satari, we all do some social media as well. So we have a really small team. Everybody else we work with on a contract basis. And we all work remotely. And I think we talk a lot on Slack, which is a kind of like an online chat. So I think it's really cool to have a company that is all women. I love that about our company, and I think that really influences the culture. But we're pretty small and we're growing, so we are still sort of figuring out what the culture is. But I think something that ties us together is that we are all active. We all have different sports that we love. So I love scuba diving and surfing. Zeal loves dancing, and Satari really loves to ski. So we all, have different sports that we use the hair ties with, but that definitely ties us together. We're a very active team.
That's awesome. Your journey is really inspiring, and I've gained a lot from your experiences, so thank you, Sarah. Do you have any last thoughts or advice you'd like to share?
I think for young women, that a lot of times our needs can be underestimated. So if you think of something that you need, a product that you need, probably a lot of other people need it too.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your incredible story.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great speaking with you.